Hi, guys, and welcome to Porcupine Real Estate. I am so thrilled to welcome both a friend and a colleague. Our guest today is Brittany Ping from Ledgeview Commercial Partners. Brittany, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you about investing in New Hampshire. Our brokerage focuses on multifamily investments, mostly in the Concord to Manchester corridor. So this is something I'm super passionate about, super familiar with, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about how our worlds collide.
Yeah, and so investing in New Hampshire is, of course, a passion for all of us because, as people who want more people to move to New Hampshire because it is like the best place on earth. I want to make sure that everyone watching this does know that if you're interested in investing in New Hampshire, one of the best ways that you can kind of stay in touch and find out what is happening on the ground is to sign up for our newsletter. So folks go to porcupinerealestate.com and they go to the buy section. They'll see an investment tab. And if they fill out that form, we're doing a weekly newsletter now telling people like the top investment properties, the top properties for rentals, but to help people sort of understand what the landscape looks like in New Hampshire. Tell us a little bit. I know single family homes are going bananas. It's really hard. Tons of offer letters. It's feeling like San Francisco did 20 years ago. So is it the same thing in your area, or how does that look?
Absolutely. So multifamily homes are still super hot. So we've seen the prices increase significantly, and that some of that has to do, and you also see it with the rental rates. So New Hampshire has extremely low vacancy rates. So Hillsborough County and Manchester, where I'm really very familiar with the market, we're at 0.7% vacancy rate here in the Manchester market. We've seen median rents go up 40 to 50% almost throughout the entire state in the past year, the past 5 years overall average. So it's been really crazy. And the thing is, it's not showing a sign of slowing down. So we only saw about a 1% increase in rents. But that's because we're kind of catching up to the big increases that happened during the big COVID boom. And the list prices and the fast grab of multifamily homes are really showing that these rents, I think, are here to stay at least for a while because the multifamily market is staying strong.
Well, I mean, that's great for investors. It's
Yes.
it's a real opportunity, I think, also for people who maybe can't move to New Hampshire yet, but who are sort of curious about this really hot market. It feels to me like it's an opportunity to get in kind of early. So even though those prices are going up, I anticipate actually because of the housing shortage, that it's going to be a supply and demand. It's just going to be a good investment no matter what.
Yeah, so you're correct. So the housing study that just came out shows that New Hampshire we're going to need 90,000 more units in the next by 2030. I think is the date. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but it's 90,000 units, which means that the supply and demand issue that we have in New Hampshire, that you guys, you see more of it from the single family side. It's not necessarily what I do, but from the rental market, it's there. We have apartments for rent in Milford, New Hampshire, that we've been working with an owner to try to fill. And unfortunately, that's an even smaller vacancy percentage rate than Manchester. And so we've got, if we have showing times, they're filled. We've got applications that the owner's reviewing, and I'm talking 12, 13 applications for 2 units that owner gets to make that decision. So we do work with a lot of out-of-state investors that are coming in. They like the return on their investments. They're still finding them, even if they bought them, in 2015, 2016, 2017, or if they're buying them in 2022, 2023, they're still making their numbers work because of the supply and demand and what it really means in regards to these rent rates staying strong and stable is good for them as well.
So, Brittany, you mentioned that we work with a lot of out-of-state investors, right? So people who are looking at what's going on in the state and really trying to chase those returns, right? As you said, it's a
Mhm.
good market. It is something that is attractive to people. What are you doing for your people? Like, how do you keep them up to date on sort of what's happening?
So it's really awesome. So as a continual owner's agent, right, as someone in a property management contract, I get to represent owners and negotiate in their best interest when we're looking at deals. But I also get to represent a good chunk of them when we're looking at things like our Board of Mayor and Alderman meetings here in Manchester. When we're talking with New Hampshire Housing for these rental survey studies. I work with them directly when it comes time for that type of information. They come to me looking for more information about what's happening in the market. And so just being really that true voice, and then also, working on pushing information out. Hey, something is changing in New Hampshire. Here's what we need to start being cautious about. Because we are that extra step in that piece of liability. So getting in front of the problem, when we're talking about the large tax assessments that just happen, they're every 5 years. So we're only 2 years away from it again here. Just being proactive with the city assessor to make sure that the information that they have about the owner's property is accurate. We found a lot of mistakes this last assessment. And also just advocating for these owners and saying, are you serious? An 80%, 67, I think 68% was the highest percent tax burden increase that we saw on one of the properties that we managed. And I wasn't able to talk the assessor down too much, don't get me wrong, but just advocating and saying, this is unreasonable. This is not what that property assesses for. You're being ridiculous. So just trying to do those few things, getting really involved at the state level and telling them what's happening, getting involved at the city level and trying to stop tax increases. And then when the assessments do come around, just advocating for the owners and their properties to be truly represented on the tax rolls.
And that is important work, of course, for people and our viewers who may not know. New Hampshire has an incredibly low tax burden. We don't have a sales tax and we don't have a personal income tax. And in fact, we're not even going to have a dividends and interest tax from next year. So property taxes are kind of a way that the man tries to fill that gap a little bit. So it is hugely important and very vital that there are people like Brittany and Ledgeview out there working with us and working with their investors to make sure that, someone's advocating and kind of going, you don't just get to sneaky the tax increases. If you had to say what you think is going to be happening over the next 2 years in the property market, what are some of your sort of like investment little tips and tricks?
I would say that we're seeing cities being forced to kind of look at their zoning, right? So this 90,000 units looming over our heads is absolutely there. So Manchester is increasing the availability of ADUs. So that is where it would be your primary home, but your ability to create an ADU. So turn it into a duplex, but it has to be where you live there. We're seeing more of that.
Is what we would call like
additional dwelling unit,
like a granny flat, like what I used to call them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like an in-law suite. So we're seeing that the restrictions on that are becoming less. So there already was some headway in the city, and Manchester is making it a little bit easier, even more. So the size of an ADU that it could be, and the overall like tax burden you have to pay, like a school impact fee, is lessened based on the size instead of it being standardized across all size of units. The smaller units, it's a smaller amount now, like smaller bedrooms. So it's helpful that way, just those little tiny pieces. So I'm expecting to see a lot more of that. So somebody who's trying to move here and say like, oh, that single family home mortgage just seems so unattainable. Well, you could buy a single family home and, either it already has an ADU, where it's not a traditional duplex. You never have to use it like one, but you have that option, or you could create an ADU. And I love that. I think that kind of house hacking and creating more housing, those are two things that are like right on my on my top of the list. I also think that we're going to see a lot of impact in regards to some new builds. We have older homes. They've been susceptible to fires. So I've seen in our neighborhood here on the west side a few rebuilds. We've got one that was just around the block from me. It wasn't even finished completed, and it already says sale pending. So just paying attention to the new construction.
And I was like, I didn't even see the sign go up, and it was already like too late.
Yeah, so new construction, I think in general, whether it's because of these, the city-owned, fire-destroyed properties, things like that, I think you're going to see that happen more throughout the state as buyers and builders start to see the demand for more housing. We're going to start to see more development come through. Whereas before, because of our low unemployment, we've not seen as much proactive building. At least it's not huge, massive apartment complexes. So maybe it's just a hope and a prayer, and I'm putting it out in the universe that we're going to see a little bit more small build on these vacant lots, but that's my goal. See more duplexes and triplexes come available.
Okay, that's really exciting. So if folks want to reach out to you and get a hold of you and be like, Brittany, help make me money, girl, how do they do that?
Absolutely. So you can reach me at bping at ledgeviewcommercial.com. So B for Brittany, ping like a ping pong ball at ledgeviewcommercial.com.
That's fantastic. And thank you so much for joining me today as we talk about how to invest in New Hampshire. We'll definitely be having you back. We'll be doing more of these series. And I think, for folks watching this, New Hampshire is this unique opportunity. I don't know to explain it better to people than kind of going, imagine you can get in on the ground floor of like Switzerland 200 years ago or Hong Kong before 1999. Even for people who've been watching this market for a long time and the prices have gone up, I still think it's a massive opportunity. There is a massive opportunity for people to really invest in the future and invest in what we're building here in New Hampshire, which is a better and more prosperous future for all of us.
I cannot agree more. So even if you don't want to live here, just knowing that this is one of the best places on earth to live, it's the most beautiful place I've ever lived. I'm in Manchester, so I'm an hour away from anything I want to do. Like, I can't imagine a better place to just get your foot in the door in regards to the real estate market, start making an impact. And, knock on wood, with the way things are going, if you really hate it, we could just help you sell it again and make a nice profit on the equity based on the valuation of these properties. I mean, we don't see it going down. That's not what's happening in New Hampshire. It's not on the forecast for New Hampshire. And so I'd absolutely recommend, if you're interested, start poking around, see if it works for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks to all our listeners and
Me,
viewers. And we will, for folks who are just, again, go to porcupinerealestate.com and sign up for the newsletter, and let's help you invest in all of our futures. Thanks so much.